very funny quote for all of you. And it's a true story. When Oscar Wilde first came to America and he went to customs back in 1882, he walked straight up to that customs official and he said this, and I quote, "I have nothing to declare except my genius." What is it about quotes that make you remember them? And how does a quote sometimes say so much in so little? I'm sure if you think about your entire life, there's only certain sound bites where you can actually remember a quote word for word. Perhaps it's something that a person said to you when you're in college. For me, when I was at university, I interviewed a fraternity brother and I said, "What's your favorite quote?" He said, "Keith, the drunk mind reveals, but the sober mind conceals." I said, "That's true. It's amazing what you let out of your heart when you're having a few pints." Right? You see, today I'd like to take you on a journey with me. I'm going to show you 3 famous quotes in which the words now live with us forever. The first quote marks a man's achievement for civilization. The second quote gives you words to remember that makes you really be careful about the choices you make in your life and the words you use. And the last quote is from a man who changed America forever. And I'd like to conclude with this speech by asking you to consider your life. What will be the quotes of your life? So let's begin. For the first example, I'd like to take you back to the 1960s. We were at war. Well, it was the Cold War between the United States of America and Russia. And it was a race to see who's bigger, stronger, faster. So President John F. Kennedy went to Congress in 1961, and he said, "We want to be the first to land a man on the moon before anybody else." Sure enough, 9 years later, in 1969, the Apollo 11 was accomplished, and the first man walked on the moon. The astronaut, Neil Armstrong, got out and set foot, and the whole world was watching. Everyone was tuned into their radios. You could hear a pin drop. And at that moment, you heard this famous quote.
"One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind."
That's right. One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Those 11 simple words said something so powerful for the whole world. And think about this. I guarantee you, Neil Armstrong lived his entire life for this one moment. His quote. With that, does that not inspire you to think about your life? And what will be the quotes of your life? So let's move forward to our next example. Fast forward now to the 1990s. Things were going great. Silicon Valley was on fire. .coms, things were booming. America was on fire. And no one thought that the 70th President of the United States could do anything wrong. It was just great. And then in 1998, a little rumor came out about perhaps an affair with a White House intern named... Could it be true? Well, in January 1998, this famous moment happened when President Bill Clinton went to all the reporters, all the press from the world, and said this quote.
"I did not have sexual relations with that woman."
The point of this example is not to discredit Bill Clinton. It's not to knock him down as a person, but to give us a very powerful contrasting example of how important our choices are in this world and how important our words are. The truth is, we all know that even Clinton supporters admit that this was a lie. It's a public breach of trust. With that, I ask you to really think about what are the quotes of your life. Warren Buffett, the financial guru, said it best. It takes 20 years to build up your reputation and only 5 minutes to tear it down. For our last quote this evening, I'd like to bring you back to the 1960s. And in this time, it was very important in America because we were going through a lot of dramatic social change. The civil rights movement was starting to peak. And in 1963, many people believed the best speech that was ever delivered was given. And it was when 4 words by one man changed America forever.
"I have a dream."
It was the "I Have a Dream" speech by Dr. Martin Luther King. And it was in this speech that we remember his quotes where he said, I have a dream that one day my 4 children will live in a nation where they'll be judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character." And we remember his concluding remarks so vividly when he said, I look forward to the day when one day, when all of God's children will hold hands and sing, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty we are free at last. And because of this speech, because of his words, America changed. Does that not inspire you? What can you do with your life? So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to think about your life for a moment here. We're all given the same 24 hours in a day. The same lightness, the same darkness. You don't have to be an astronaut. You don't have to be a world leader to make a difference. Even Forrest Gump left us with a quote. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. I remember my dad growing up. I'd say, Dad, why can't I stay out till 11 o'clock at night? Everyone else is doing it. He'd say, Keith, you're not everyone else. Be a leader, not a follower. I'd like to leave you with a final thought. It's known as living with the end in mind. One day we're all going to pass on. If you were to attend your own funeral, look down at your own casket, and look up and see all your loved ones around you, what would you want them to say about you? What are the words from your life you'd like to leave behind? And I ask you to live the moment right now that we have to be that person. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you,